He should have stepped back the moment Rachel's voice cut through the park, but Daniel didn't move. "You're holding hands with my sister." The sentence landed like broken glass. Rachel stood a few steps away, arms crossed, her eyes sharp and cold in that familiar way that used to make Daniel feel 10 years smaller. The kind of look that had once ended arguments before they even started. Sophia's hand was still in his, warm, steady, unmoving. Rachel noticed. Her smile stretched slowly, dangerously. "Oh wow," she said quietly, "so it's true." Daniel opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His brain was still catching up to the moment. 10 seconds ago, he had been watching his daughter run toward the swings with a sandwich in one hand and pure joy on her face. Now the past was standing in front of him wearing expensive sunglasses and the exact same expression that had once destroyed his marriage. "How long?" Rachel asked, not angry, worse, curious, like she was dissecting something already dead. Sophia squeezed Daniel's hand gently before standing. "Rachel," she said calmly. That calm only made Rachel laugh. "Do, Rachel, me," she snapped. "I want to know how long you've been sneaking around with my ex-husband." Daniel finally found his voice. "We're not sneaking." Rachel cut him off instantly. "Oh, Daniel," she said, shaking her head, "you always were terrible at lying." Before he could respond, a small voice floated over from the playground. "Daddy, look." Emma ran toward them, her curls bouncing as she carried a dandelion like it was a trophy. The moment she reached them, she stopped. Her eyes moved between the three adults. Kids notice everything. "Why are you all making the serious faces?" she asked. Rachel's expression shifted immediately, the storm hiding behind a polite smile. "Nothing, sweetheart." Emma looked up at Sophia, then she grinned. "Hi, dragon lady." Rachel blinked. "Dragon what?" Sophia crouched down to Emma's level, smiling softly. "It's my superhero name," she whispered. Emma giggled. "Because she knows everything about dragons," she explained proudly. Rachel slowly looked from Emma to Sophia to Daniel, and something dangerous settled into her expression. "Well," she said coolly, "that explains a lot." Daniel felt the old tension rise in his chest. The same feeling he used to get right before Rachel started a fight that would last for days. Sophia stood again. "We're just spending time together," she said calmly. Rachel laughed. "With my ex-husband." "We've been divorced 3 years," Daniel said. Rachel tilted her head. "Yes," she replied. "And somehow in that time my sister decided to start dating the father of my child." Emma frowned. "You're using your angry voice again." That sentence landed harder than anything else. Rachel glanced down at her daughter and forced another smile. "I'm not angry, sweetie." Emma crossed her arms. "My teacher says when grown-ups say that it means they are angry." Daniel almost laughed. Sophia bit the inside of her cheek to stop herself from smiling. Rachel exhaled slowly, clearly recalculating the situation. "Emma," she said gently, "why don't you come with me for a bit? We'll get ice cream." Emma looked back at Daniel. "But I'm supposed to have sandwich time." "You can still have sandwich time later," Rachel said. Emma hesitated. Then she looked at Sophia. "You promise you won't disappear?" Sophia's voice softened. "I promise." Emma nodded seriously and took Rachel's hand. As they walked away, Rachel glanced back once. That look said everything. This wasn't over, not even close. When they were finally out of earshot, Daniel let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "Well," he muttered. Sophia rubbed her temples. "That went poorly." "Suboptimal," Daniel corrected. She looked at him. "Suboptimal." I'm trying not to scream internally. Sophia laughed softly. It was the same laugh that had surprised him the first time he heard it. The same laugh that had started everything. Which was funny because the truth was none of this was supposed to happen. 3 months earlier Daniel Wright had been a very different man. A tired one. A quiet one. The kind of single dad who fell asleep on the couch while helping his daughter with homework. The kind of man who hadn't even thought about dating since the divorce. Until one stupid mistake changed everything. It happened at 11. 47 p.m. Daniel had just finished editing wedding photos for a client who couldn't afford to pay him yet, but promised exposure instead. Emma was asleep upstairs, the apartment finally quiet. His brain was fried. His thumb kept scrolling on a dating app he barely used. Swipe, swipe, swipe. Faces blurred together, then his phone buzzed. A message. Daniel almost ignored it, but the name made his stomach drop instantly. Sophia Mitchell. He stared at the screen. There was no universe where that name should appear on his dating app. Sophia Mitchell was Rachel's older sister. The same woman who once told him during a Thanksgiving dinner that he lacked ambition. The same woman who had supported Rachel during the divorce. The same woman who had looked at him like he was something unpleasant stuck to the bottom of her shoe. His heart started beating faster. The message was only 5 words. So, you're interested. Daniel's blood ran cold because suddenly he remembered his tired thumb. The last profile he swiped on before closing the app. Sophia's profile. He had liked it, accidentally. He sat up on the couch. No, no, no. This couldn't be happening. His brain started running through options. Option 1, block her immediately. Pretend the internet exploded. Option 2, explain the accident. Option 3, throw the phone into the nearest river and move to Canada under a different name. Unfortunately, she had already seen it, and she had already messaged him, which meant the damage was done. Daniel slowly opened the profile again. This time he actually looked at it, and that was when the second surprise hit him. Sophia didn't look like the woman he remembered. The photos showed someone different. Softer, her blonde hair fell loosely around her shoulders instead of the tight professional bun she used to wear at family events. Her smile looked real, and her eyes. They were warm, not judgmental, not cold. Warm. Daniel frowned. Who was this woman? Because she didn't look anything like the person he remembered from Rachel's family dinners. His phone buzzed again. Another message. Did your thumb slip, or are you secretly curious? Daniel stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he groaned. Emma, he muttered to the empty apartment. Your dad may have just ruined his life. But the truth was, he had no idea yet. That one accidental like was about to reveal the biggest lie his marriage had ever been built on, and change his life forever. Daniel didn't answer Sophia's message that night, or the next day, or the day after that. For 3 straight days the notification sat on his phone like a ticking time bomb. Did your thumb slip, or are you secretly curious? Every time Daniel opened his phone, the message stared back at him, and every time he closed the app again, he told himself the same thing. This is a terrible idea. Sophia Mitchell was the last person on earth he should be talking to. She was Rachel's sister. The woman who had watched his marriage collapse from the sidelines and never once stepped in. The woman who had looked at him during the divorce like he had personally disappointed her. Nothing good could come from this conversation. Nothing. But on the 4th morning, something unexpected happened. Emma climbed into his lap while he was sitting at the kitchen table staring at his phone. His 7-year-old daughter studied his face carefully. You look weird. Daniel blinked. Thank you, sweetheart. She shook her head. No, not normal weird. She poked his cheek. Sad weird. Daniel tried to smile. I'm just thinking about something. Emma tilted her head. The thing on your phone. Daniel sighed. Kids notice everything, maybe. She studied him for another second before saying something that made him freeze. You look like when someone steals your ice cream, but then gives you different ice cream and you don't know if it's good or not. Daniel stared at her. That is extremely specific. Emma shrugged. My teacher says scary things can be important. Daniel looked down at his phone again. The message still sat there. Did your thumb slip, or are you secretly curious? Maybe Emma's teacher was right. Maybe scary things were important. He opened the chat. His fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then he typed. Honestly, my thumb betrayed me. It was an accident. I was exhausted. I'm sorry if it made things awkward. He stared at the message, then hit send before he could change his mind. Immediately he regretted it. Oh no, he whispered. The typing dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Daniel held his breath. Then the reply arrived. An accident. Ouch. My ego is bruised. Daniel blinked. That was not the response he expected. Another message appeared. Here I thought my carefully staged hiking photos had finally paid off. A laugh escaped him before he could stop it. He typed back, "You don't actually enjoy hiking." The reply came instantly. "Of course not. I enjoy the Instagram photos of hiking. The actual hiking part involves sweating and not enough wine." Daniel leaned back in his chair. For the first time in weeks, he smiled. "That might be the most honest thing I've ever heard about social media." Sophia responded, "I'm 41, Daniel. I no longer have the energy to pretend to be interesting." Daniel raised an eyebrow. Pretending to enjoy hiking is the universal language of dating profiles. Her next reply came quickly. "What about you? Do you secretly love hiking?" He typed back, "No, I secretly love sitting." Sophia sent a laughing emoji. And just like that, something shifted. The conversation kept going. One message turned into 10. 10 turned into 30. By lunchtime, they were debating pineapple on pizza. Sophia was aggressively against it. Daniel defended it like a constitutional right. By the time Emma came home from school, they had sent over 70 messages. Daniel hadn't even noticed he skipped lunch, and the strangest part, he kept forgetting who he was talking to. This wasn't the woman he remembered. The Sophia from Rachel's family dinners had been sharp, distant, controlled. This Sophia was funny, self-aware, warm. That night their conversation continued. Then the next night. Then the night after that. Soon texting turned into phone calls. The first time Daniel heard her laugh through the phone, he felt something unfamiliar. Comfort, real comfort. 2 weeks later, he found himself pacing his apartment while Emma brushed her teeth upstairs. He stared at his phone, then typed a message. "This might be weird to ask, but maybe we should meet in person." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Because you're still technically my ex-sister-in-law." "Exactly," Sophia replied. "That does sound mildly scandalous." Daniel smiled. "Coffee." She responded with a single word. "Okay." The day of the meeting, Daniel changed his shirt 4 times. Emma walked into his room and watched him critically. "You look like a penguin." "That's very helpful." She pointed at the blue shirt. "That one looks normal." Daniel sighed. "Normal is the goal." When he arrived at the cafe, Sophia was already there. For a moment he almost didn't recognize her. She looked lighter. Her blonde hair was pulled back loosely, and she wore a simple white blouse and jeans. Nothing fancy. But when she looked up and saw him, she smiled, a real smile, and something inside Daniel shifted. "You look like you're walking toward a firing squad," she said as he sat down. "That's because your sister might actually assemble one." Sophia laughed softly. "Rachel doesn't get to control who I drink coffee with." There was a flicker in her eyes, something serious. Daniel noticed it. That sounded personal. Sophia stirred her coffee slowly. "Daniel, there's something I need to tell you." His stomach tightened. "That sounds ominous." "It kind of is." She looked up at him, and for the first time since they started talking, she seemed nervous. "I've been trying to figure out how to say this for 15 years. Daniel frowned. 15. Sophia nodded slowly. "Yes." She took a deep breath. "You deserve to know what really happened in your marriage." Daniel's heart stopped, because suddenly the entire conversation didn't feel casual anymore, not even close. "What do you mean?" he asked quietly. Sophia's fingers tightened around her cup. "My sister didn't leave you because you worked too much." Daniel blinked. That sentence alone hit him like a punch, because for 3 years. That had been the story, the explanation, the guilt he carried. Sophia looked him directly in the eyes and said the words that would shatter everything he believed about his past. Rachel was having an affair. Daniel didn't move, didn't blink, didn't breathe. The cafe noise faded into the background. "What?" Sophia's voice softened. "For 2 years, Daniel." 2 years, his mind struggled to process the number. "That's not possible," he whispered. Sophia nodded sadly. "My family knew." Daniel looked up sharply. "They what?" "They knew." The words landed like a hammer, and they helped hide it. Daniel felt something crack inside his chest, because suddenly, the last 3 years of his life looked completely different. All the guilt, all the blame, all the nights he believed he had destroyed his own marriage. Sophia looked down at the table. "I should have told you back then." Her voice trembled slightly, but I didn't. Daniel finally spoke. "Why?" Sophia swallowed. "Because I was a coward." Silence stretched between them. Then she added quietly, "And I've regretted it every single day since." Daniel stared at her, the woman he thought he knew, the woman he thought hated him, the woman who was now rewriting his entire past, and suddenly one question burned in his chest. "Why tell me now?" Sophia met his eyes. "Because when you accidentally liked my profile." She hesitated. "I took it as a sign." Daniel blinked. "A sign?" She nodded. That enough time had passed. Her hand slowly moved across the table and rested on top of his. "You deserved the truth." Daniel looked down at their hands, then back at her, and quietly asked the question that had been building inside him. "The conversations we've been having, were they just guilt?" Sophia's cheeks flushed slightly. "At first, maybe." She squeezed his hand gently. "But then you made me laugh." Daniel didn't pull his hand away. Sophia continued softly. "And you talked about Emma with so much love that it made my heart ache." Daniel's chest tightened. "And somewhere between arguing about pizza toppings." She smiled faintly. "And you sending me that ridiculous plant meme." Her voice softened. "I realized I didn't want the conversation to end." Daniel turned his hand under hers. Their fingers slowly intertwined. "This is complicated," he said. Sophia nodded. "Very. You're my ex-wife's sister. I'm aware. My family would lose their minds." Sophia smiled softly. "Yes." Daniel looked at her for a long moment, then said quietly, "And yet here we are." Sophia's voice dropped almost to a whisper. "Here we are." But neither of them realized yet that the hardest part of their story was still coming. The silence after Sophia's confession felt heavier than any argument Daniel had ever survived during his marriage. Rachel had an affair for 2 years. His mind kept repeating the sentence like it was trying to translate a language it refused to understand. 2 years, that meant birthdays, holidays, anniversaries, Emma learning to walk, Emma saying her first word, Emma's first day of preschool, all of it happening while the woman he loved had been living a second life. Daniel leaned back in his chair slowly. "I spent 3 years believing I destroyed my marriage," he said quietly. Sophia didn't interrupt. "I thought I worked too much," he continued. "I thought I ignored her. I thought I failed." His voice cracked slightly. "I thought I deserved it." Sophia's eyes filled with regret. "You didn't." Daniel laughed softly, not happy, not bitter, just tired. "That would have been useful information 3 years ago." Sophia nodded slowly. "I know." She looked down at the table. "My parents knew about the affair almost from the beginning." Daniel's head snapped up. "They what?" "They thought Rachel would eventually end it and return to the marriage." Daniel stared at her, "And when she didn't?" Sophia's voice lowered. "They decided protecting the family image mattered more than telling the truth." Daniel rubbed his face. "Of course it did." For a moment neither of them spoke. The air between them felt heavy with things that should have happened years earlier. Finally, Daniel asked the question that had been sitting in the back of his mind since she started talking. "Why didn't you tell me?" Sophia didn't hesitate. "Because I was weak." Daniel frowned. "I was the responsible daughter," she continued quietly. "The one who kept the peace, the one who didn't cause problems." Her fingers tightened around her coffee cup. "My parents made it very clear they expected me to support Rachel." "And you did." "Yes." Sophia looked up at him, "And I hated myself for it." Daniel didn't know what to say. The anger he expected to feel toward her wasn't really there, What he felt instead was something stranger, relief. Relief that maybe he hadn't been the failure he believed he was. Relief that the story he had been telling himself for 3 years wasn't the truth. And strangely, relief that the woman sitting across from him had finally chosen honesty. Sophia spoke again. "I never expected you to forgive me." Daniel looked at her. "I don't know if forgiveness is the right word." She nodded. "That's fair. But I appreciate the truth." Her shoulders relaxed slightly. "That's more than I deserve." Daniel thought about that for a moment, then shook his head. "No." Sophia looked surprised. "No. No one deserves to carry guilt forever." He leaned forward slightly. "You told me the truth when you didn't have to." Sophia studied him carefully. "You're handling this better than I expected." Daniel shrugged. "I've had 3 years of practice believing my life fell apart." A sad smile crossed her face. "Fair point." The conversation that followed lasted another hour. They talked about the past, about Emma, about what life had looked like after the divorce. Daniel admitted how hard it had been becoming a single parent overnight. Sophia admitted she had watched from a distance and had quietly admired how he handled it. "I always thought you were a good father," she said. Daniel laughed softly. "Rachel disagrees." Sophia shook her head. "Rachel has a talent for rewriting reality." When they finally left the cafe, the sun was already setting. Neither of them rushed to say goodbye. They walked slowly down the sidewalk like two people who weren't quite ready for the conversation to end. "Thank you for telling me," Daniel said. Sophia nodded. "I owed you that." They stopped at the corner. For a moment neither of them moved. Then Daniel spoke. "I'd like to see you again." Sophia raised an eyebrow. "That sounds dangerously close to a date." Daniel smiled faintly. "I suppose it does." She considered that for a moment. "Daniel." "Yes. This could get messy." "I know. My family will hate it." "I know. My sister will definitely hate it." Daniel nodded. "I know." Sophia searched his face. "And you still want to see me again?" Daniel thought about Emma, about the past 3 years, about the conversation they just had. Then he nodded. "Yes." Sophia's lips curved into a small smile. "Okay." That was the beginning. What followed over the next 3 months was something neither of them had planned. They called it a friendship, a very careful friendship. They met for coffee, then dinner, then long walks through quiet parks. The conversations came easily. Sometimes they talked for hours. Other times they just enjoyed the quiet. Daniel discovered Sophia had a dry sense of humor. Sophia discovered Daniel had terrible jokes. "Your sense of humor is concerning," she told him one evening. "My humor is sophisticated. You sent me a meme of a cactus wearing sunglasses. That cactus was hilarious." Sophia laughed, and Daniel realized something strange. He looked forward to hearing that laugh, more than he should. Eventually something even more dangerous happened. Emma met Sophia. It wasn't planned. Daniel had taken Emma to a bookstore one Saturday afternoon. Sophia happened to be there. At least that's what they told themselves. Emma studied Sophia carefully for about 10 seconds. Then she said something neither adult expected. "You're pretty." Sophia blinked. "Thank you." Emma crossed her arms thoughtfully. "Daddy looks happier when you're around." Daniel nearly choked. Sophia looked at him, then back at Emma. "Your dad is pretty great." Emma nodded like that was obvious. Then she pointed at a dragon book in Sophia's hand. "You like dragons?" Sophia smiled. "Very much." Emma gasped. "Okay, you're my favorite adult now." Daniel laughed. And somehow from that moment forward, Sophia became the dragon lady. Emma loved her, which made everything more complicated, because despite the happiness growing between them, there was one problem neither of them could ignore: Rachel. Rachel still believed she had influence over Daniel's life, over his parenting, over his choices. The idea that Daniel was spending time with her sister would feel like betrayal, One evening, Daniel stood on Sophia's balcony looking out over the city lights. "We can't hide forever," he said. Sophia leaned against the railing beside him. "I know. She's going to find out eventually." Sophia sighed. "My mother will blame me." "You didn't do anything wrong." "My family doesn't work that way." Daniel looked at her. "You're allowed to be happy." What? Sophia smiled sadly. "That's a relatively new concept for me." Daniel reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. "Then get used to it," he said quietly. Sophia squeezed his hand gently. "I'm trying." But neither of them realized yet just how explosive the truth would be, because the moment Rachel discovered their relationship, everything would change, and the confrontation that followed would decide whether their fragile happiness survived or shattered completely. Rachel didn't shout. That was the strange part. Daniel expected yelling, explosions, the kind of dramatic meltdown Rachel used to unleash during arguments when they were married. Instead, she stood there in the park with that cold, controlled smile, and somehow that felt worse. Emma had already wandered back toward the swings after finishing her sandwich, happily distracted again. But the adults were locked in a silent standoff. Rachel looked at Sophia first, then Daniel, then back to Sophia. "I always knew you had a superiority complex," Rachel said calmly, "but this is impressive even for you." Sophia didn't react. She had learned long ago that reacting to Rachel's insults only fueled them. "Rachel," she said quietly, "this isn't a war." Rachel laughed. "Oh, it absolutely is." Daniel stepped forward. "No, it's not." Rachel's eyes snapped toward him. "You don't get to decide that." "We're not doing anything wrong," Daniel said firmly. Rachel tilted her head. "You're dating my sister. We're two adults. You're the father of my child. And you left me 3 years ago." That sentence landed harder than anything else. Rachel's expression flickered. For a split second the calm mask cracked. Then it returned. "You always were dramatic," she said. Sophia spoke again. "Rachel, this isn't about hurting you." Rachel turned sharply. "Oh, really? Because it feels exactly like that." She pointed at Daniel. "You couldn't move on with someone normal." Then she pointed at Sophia. "And you couldn't find literally anyone else on the planet." Daniel felt anger rise in his chest. "We didn't plan this." Rachel laughed again. "That's the oldest excuse in history." Before Daniel could respond, a small voice interrupted. "Why are you yelling again?" Emma had returned from the playground. All three adults froze. Rachel immediately softened her expression. "I'm not yelling, sweetie." Emma frowned. "You're doing the angry talking." Sophia crouched beside her. "It's okay." Emma studied both women carefully. Then she said something that completely disarmed the situation. "I like the dragon lady." Rachel blinked. Emma continued. "She makes Daddy laugh." Daniel felt his throat tighten. Rachel looked at him, then at Sophia, then at her daughter, and for the first time, her anger hesitated. Emma continued innocently. "Daddy used to be sad a lot." Rachel looked at Daniel. "Was he?" Emma nodded. "Yeah." Then she pointed at Sophia. "But he smiles when she's here." The park suddenly felt very quiet. Rachel looked between them again. The anger was still there. But something else had appeared too, reluctant understanding. She exhaled slowly. "This is complicated." Emma crossed her arms. "Grown-ups always say that when they don't want to explain things." Daniel almost laughed. Rachel rubbed her forehead. "I swear she gets that from you." "She definitely does," Daniel replied. Rachel looked at Sophia. "I'm not happy about this." Sophia nodded. "I understand. And my parents are going to lose their minds." "That also sounds accurate." Rachel sighed. "But Emma clearly likes you." Emma grinned proudly. "I love the dragon lady." Rachel shook her head slightly. "I cannot believe that nickname survived." Sophia smiled softly. "I'm kind of attached to it now." Rachel looked at Daniel one more time. I'm still angry. I know. And this is going to take time. That's fair. Rachel nodded slowly, but Emma deserves peace. Daniel felt something shift, not forgiveness, not approval, but the beginning of something close to acceptance. Rachel looked at her daughter. Come on, kid, let's get ice cream. Emma cheered. Then she ran back and hugged Sophia quickly. Bye, dragon lady. Sophia laughed softly. Bye, kiddo. As Rachel and Emma walked away, Rachel paused. She turned back briefly. Daniel. Yeah. If you hurt my sister. Daniel shook his head. I won't. Rachel studied his face, then nodded once and walked away. Sophia exhaled. Well. Daniel laughed quietly. That could have gone worse. Much worse. They stood in the fading sunlight for a moment. Then Sophia looked at him. You okay? Daniel thought about the last 3 years, the lies, the guilt, the loneliness. Then he looked at her. I think I finally am. And life slowly moved forward after that. Rachel kept her distance at first, but she stopped fighting the relationship. Sophia's parents took longer, months of uncomfortable dinners and cautious conversations, but even they eventually softened when they saw how happy Sophia was. And Emma became the unexpected peacekeeper. Anytime tension started rising, she would simply say one sentence, "Be nice to the dragon lady." And somehow that worked. 1 year later, Daniel stood on Sophia's balcony again, the same place where they used to talk late at night, but tonight he had something in his pocket, a small ring. Sophia stepped outside and wrapped her arms around him from behind. You're being suspiciously quiet. I'm thinking. That's dangerous. Daniel turned to face her. You remember the night I accidentally liked your dating profile? Sophia laughed. The most chaotic notification I've ever received. That accident changed everything. Sophia nodded softly. It really did. Daniel pulled the ring from his pocket. Sophia's eyes widened. Daniel. I spent years believing my life had already happened, he said quietly, that the best parts were behind me. Her eyes filled with tears, but then my thumb made a mistake. Sophia laughed through the tears. That's the most romantic sentence anyone has ever said to me. Daniel smiled. Maybe it wasn't a mistake. He opened the ring box. Maybe it was the beginning. Sophia covered her mouth. I didn't plan to fall in love with you, he continued. I definitely didn't plan it either. But here we are. He took a breath. Sophia Mitchell, will you marry me? Tears rolled down her cheeks as she nodded. Yes. Then she laughed. Yes, of course I will. Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger. Then he kissed her, the kind of kiss that carried every moment that brought them there, every mistake, every truth, every second chance. Later that night, Emma examined the ring carefully. Does this mean the dragon lady lives with us now? Sophia laughed. I think so. Emma nodded seriously. Good. Why good? Daniel asked. Emma shrugged. Because Daddy smiles more. Daniel looked at Sophia. Sophia looked at Emma. And in that quiet moment, something simple became clear. Sometimes life doesn't change because of grand plans. Sometimes it changes because of small accidents. A tired thumb. A message that said 5 simple words. And the courage to answer it. Because some mistakes aren't mistakes at all. Some mistakes are just the beginning of the life you were meant to find. And Daniel learned something important from all of it. Some promises don't start with perfect timing. They start with imperfect moments. But the people who choose to stay, those are the people who change everything.